Football has always been a male-dominated sport, but that has been changing over the last few years. So now it's our turn to try a hand at fantasy football. Here with tips for beginners, we have Dan Clasgens. He's the host of SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio. And in fact, you were telling me that roughly 40% of those who are playing fantasy football are women.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy to think about, but it's easier to play now. Plus, it makes games more fun, and that's the most important part. And I also think that the NFL is focusing on women, and that's what we're finding. I mean, they're trying to grow their business, and that's a big growth area. So,
yeah, if you cut off half that market, that's a problem. So we're growing that. So you were saying fantasy football, obviously a good way to make the game fun, but also it's a great way to socialize and win.
Yes, we all like to win. And I think that's why women really dig it because, let's face it, they're more competitive.
Much more.
Much more competitive. But it does make it more fun, and it's a way to socialize. I can't tell you how many friends I've met, new friends just playing in fantasy football, but it's also about my old friends that come from, I have a draft where I have friends that drive 5 hours, and it's like that one day of the year where I get to see them because that keeps us together.
A lot of smack talking. Now, if you are a beginner, it can be intimidating. You can understand why people maybe don't want to get involved, or they're on the fence, and you have some tips for them. One of them is know your league rules.
You've got to know your league rules. It's critical. You know, for some leagues you get points for catches, some you don't. That makes a big difference. I also think having your rankings ready. I've got my rankings at getsportsinfo.com. You can also put your players in tiers. So tier 1 are your really good guys. The next tier down is a step down. But as you're drafting and you see the players are still available in certain tiers is a good thing. I want to study average draft position too, ADP data. That gives you the value that other people are thinking of a player. You don't want to take a guy in round 3 that's going in round 10. And most importantly, Kara, let's have some fun. Football is fun.
Because
right?
Talking about tips for beginners, you were telling me that you can look at these tips, study the average draft position, which, by the way, where do you get the average draft position?
Just Google ADP and about 150 things will pop up.
See, this is a real beginner.
Fantasy football calculator is one of my favorite sites.
Okay, and the thing is, there's still a lot of luck involved. I mean, we talked about if you have a player that you've picked and they get injured, you're out of it.
Yeah.
Or at least
I've said for a long time, I mean, not to take away from all the hard work I do.
Exactly.
I make educated guesses, but once there's an injury, it all goes down. And I think, too, for people who want to start out, maybe you don't have time for a league, it's a commitment. You could just pick a player or two a week with a few friends or your husband or your spouse. I do it with my daughter, Jessica, and my wife, Kelly. We'll pick a running back, a quarterback, and a receiver, and if they get touchdowns, you get points. 6 points for a touchdown, a point for every 10 yards, and you can tally it up by hand. And, we play for bragging rights at the Clasgens house.
I was going to say, that's kind of a slow way to get your feet wet before you decide to jump on in for a full-on draft.
Yes.
By the way, Jessica's second word, or at least top 5 words, was what?
Touchdown.
Okay.
She touchdown. That's what I taught her before she was like 6. So she's
well, and
she's in trouble.
If you missed last week, it may be too late, but interesting perspective on our Facebook Live. You talked specifically about players that you thought were studs, duds, and sleepers. So I have that too if you want to go back and look through my Facebook Live posts.
Definitely, and I'm going to give you the link to my characters in your fantasy league too.
Yes, I'm going to share those because apparently everyone is some sort of a character in your fantasy league. You may not want to admit it, but he's got a whole list of all these years, and you fit there somewhere. I'll post that here in just a minute. Also, where can people listen to you?
Yeah, you catch me Saturday and Sunday morning, SiriusXM. That's Sirius 210 XM87. I got a podcast. You can get that at getsportsinfo.com. All my articles and rankings are at Pro Football Focus.
Okay, happy season.
Happy season. Good luck. It's almost time.
Almost. A blast from the past is back behind bars. We're going to tell you why rapper Mystical is in trouble with the law again.